Oh, good morning, everyone. I'm Ethan, moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, Harassment and Bullying, a Sepsis in Healthcare. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Dr. Susan Strauss. Dr. Susan is a national and international consultant, speaker, and trainer in organizational effectiveness and management development. Susan has a doctorate in organizational leadership, a master's degree in community health, and is a former RN. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Susan.
Thank you, Ethan. Greetings, everybody from Minnesota. So let's take a look at today's objective. We'll discuss sexual and other protected class harassment. We will examine some healthcare discrimination and harassment court decisions. We'll demonstrate the nexus or the relationship between bullying and harassment. We'll look at some of the causes and contributing factors as it relates to the healthcare environment. We'll identify the impact of harassment on the victim, the work unit, the organization, and the patient. We'll discuss the proper procedure to follow if you're harassed or bullied. And I'm going to be referencing, it's in the references, the JCO's Centennial Events Alerts on behaviors that undermine a culture of safety and preventing violence in the healthcare setting. And we'll identify management's role in the responsibility of the prevention and intervention of harassment and bullying. And we'll discuss how process improvement and risk management and the hospital culture are integral in any hospital-wide prevention and intervention strategies. So why is this important in healthcare anyway? Well, it has to do with quality patient care. So there's a number of implications. One, legal. It negatively affects the health of employees. It's a human rights issue. And of course, it's financial. So there's a number of laws, both federal and state, that you need to be aware of. Title VII is your Civil Rights Act, and it also includes the other laws that are on your screen. So in 2021, which is the most recent data that we have from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, you can see the charges. The charges were the lowest that they've been in 2 decades. And age discrimination, 21%. So let's start with sexual harassment. What is a sexual advance? What is a sexual favor? What causes these behaviors to become illegal? This is referred to as the hostile environment portion of the law. Now, you can also have quid pro quo portion of the law. Now, the hostile environment, what do we look at to see if it's the environment? Well, we also said that it had to be severe and or pervasive. Well, what do we mean by severity? So these are some of the types of sexual misconduct that would be severe, and then denying benefits for rejection of sexual advances. Now, what do we mean by pervasive and other specific facts? Subjective versus objective, and it will be evaluated. So harassment does not need to be directed at a particular worker. An example would be pornography. So we ask, did harassment occur? Well, what do you think? It's in the eye of the beholder. There's also something called a third-party harasser, as well as residents and physicians. So what are the guidelines that you should use to determine if you are harassing someone? And is there equal initiation and participation between you and the person with whom you are interacting? So JCO stated that healthcare has a history, whether that is regarding harassment or bullying. Retaliation is illegal, the retaliation of the activity and an adverse action. These are examples of retaliation. Now, retaliation can occur even if somebody is complaining about bullying. Here is the way that the EEOC defines retaliation. Now, what you've got to think of is when you observe certain behaviors, is it appropriate workplace behavior and or pervasive enough to be illegal? Now, healthcare damages, lawsuits against healthcare for harassment. So let's look at bullying. This is one definition of bullying I'll let you read. It does tend to filter down. So what are the causes and contributing factors of bullying or other kinds of mental illness? So when we think about bullying, incivility is where it begins, and it can escalate to assault and murder. So let's look a little bit more at causation. Bullying and harassment particularly are not unique. Here are some examples of bullying. And these examples of micro-bullying, virtual harassment, virtual bullying. Bullying is not conflict. So abuse then becomes accepted. It is expected, and it is symptomatic of the toxic work environment. JACO examples. What can we do to deal with what happened? So what do you do about the physician as the perpetrator? Most physician abuse occurs in these areas. Now, one of the reasons that physicians get by with it is they're protected and they're on the chair of ethics committees. Now, what about the patient as the perpetrator? So what do you do if it happens to you? Witnesses will be contacted, their personnel files will be examined, etc. So document, and all of this needs to be documented. What do you say to people when this has happened? So when you are bullied, the most common thing that people do, and if you're harassed for that matter, is we ignore it and you report it. It's important for you to report it and provide your documentation. Now, how do you confront the bully? This is an assertiveness technique. So I've given you a handout on what to do if it happens to you. So this tells you what the effect is of bullying and harassment. So there's a reason, though, why targets don't confront the offender. So what's management's role anyway? And do you know how to intervene? So for management, you've got to prevent it from happening in the first place. And you may just need to change the culture, which is very difficult because organizational culture, these are the deep-seated assumptions, and it requires somebody that understands and can facilitate and sustain transformational leadership. So what should you do? You prevent it from happening in the first place. You stop it when it does happen. You keep it from recurring, and you prevent reprisals. The C-suite have the most responsibility for leading on it. Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope this was helpful for you. And these are difficult issues to deal with. Healthcare is not doing well in either one. And interestingly, one of the areas that they are really faltering on is disability, discrimination, and harassment. And to me, that seems like it just blows my mind. That would not be one that healthcare would be not following the law. Be well, stay safe, and have a good week. And thanks again for joining us. And Ethan, thank you as well. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Susan. That does conclude the session for today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.